How many times have you found yourself explaining something that didn't even need an explanation? Explaining why you made a decision, explaining why you said no, explaining why you walked away, explaining why you're changing, explaining why you don't want to be involved anymore. And sometimes you're not explaining because you want to. You're explaining because you're afraid of being misunderstood. You're afraid someone will think you're rude. You're afraid they'll judge you. You're afraid they'll be disappointed. So you keep talking. You keep defending yourself. You keep giving reasons. You keep trying to make everyone understand. But here's something you need to learn. You don't have to explain every decision you make. You're allowed to make choices that other people don't understand. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to leave. You're allowed to protect your time. You're allowed to grow in a direction that doesn't make sense to everyone else. And most importantly, you don't need everyone's approval to live your life. There was probably a time when you thought explaining yourself would make everything easier. You thought if you just explained enough, people would understand. So you gave them the whole story. You explained your intentions. You explained your reasons. You explained your feelings. You explained what happened. And after all that, they still misunderstood you. That's when you realize something important. Some people don't misunderstand you because you haven't explained yourself well enough. They misunderstand you because they have already decided what they want to believe, and no amount of explaining will change that. You could tell the truth 10 different ways, and someone committed to misunderstanding you will still find a problem. So stop exhausting yourself. You don't have to keep standing in front of people trying to prove that your intentions were good. Your actions will eventually reveal the truth. Let them. If you're becoming disciplined, don't announce it. Be disciplined. If you're working on yourself, don't keep telling everyone. Work on yourself. If you're building something, don't constantly talk about it. Build it. If you're changing your life, don't spend all your time explaining the change. Change. Let your life become the explanation, because words can be questioned. Actions are harder to argue with. You can tell someone, I'm serious this time. But your consistency proves it. You can tell someone, I change. But your behavior proves it. You can tell someone, I'm focused. But your results prove it. You can tell someone, I know my worth. But your boundaries prove it. You don't need to announce strength when your behavior already shows it, and that's the mindset you need to develop. Stop talking so much about who you're becoming. Become that person. There is power in being quiet, not because silence makes you superior, not because you should ignore everyone, but because you don't need to turn every decision into a debate. Someone asks, why aren't you coming? You can say, I have other priorities. That's enough. Someone asks, why are you spending less time with us? You can say, I'm focusing on some things right now. That's enough. Someone asks, why did you say no? You can say, because I can't do it. And that's enough. You don't need to write a paragraph. You don't need to apologize 10 times. You don't need to provide evidence. You don't need to defend your right to have boundaries. And understand this, a boundary that requires a 20-minute explanation is often not being communicated confidently. Sometimes you explain because you're secretly asking for permission. You say no, then immediately start explaining why you deserve to say no. You make a decision, then look around to see who approves. You walk away, then feel guilty because someone didn't like it. Stop. You are responsible for your choices. You are not responsible for making everyone comfortable with them. That's a huge difference. You can be respectful without being available. You can be kind without saying yes. You can care about people without allowing them to control your decisions. And you can disappoint someone without doing something wrong. Read that again in your mind. You can disappoint someone without doing something wrong. Someone being upset doesn't automatically mean you made a bad decision. Someone disagreeing doesn't automatically mean you're wrong. Someone criticizing you doesn't automatically mean you need to defend yourself. Sometimes you simply need to listen, consider what they said, and continue. Not every opinion deserves a response. Not every accusation deserves a defense. Not every misunderstanding deserves a correction. And not every person deserves access to your private thoughts. You have to become selective with your words, because the more you explain yourself to everyone, the more opportunities you give people to argue with your decisions. You say, I'm doing this because. Then they say, you shouldn't. You explain why. They give another reason. You explain again. They disagree again. Now, what started as a simple decision has become a debate. Why? Because you handed them the invitation. You turned your decision into something they could negotiate. Stop doing that. If you've made a thoughtful decision, stand behind it. You don't have to be aggressive. You don't have to be disrespectful. Just be clear. I understand you feel differently, but this is my decision. And move on. That's maturity. And here's something else. People who genuinely respect you don't require endless explanations. They may not agree with you, but they respect your right to choose. They might say, I wouldn't do it that way, but I respect your decision. That's healthy. But if someone constantly demands that you justify yourself, be careful. They may not be looking for understanding. They may be looking for control. And you don't have to hand them that control. The same applies to your goals. Stop announcing every goal before you've done the work. You don't need to tell everyone. I'm going to wake up at 5. I'm going to get fit. I'm going to start a business. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to become successful. Talk less, work more, because announcing your plans can create a strange feeling of accomplishment before you've actually accomplished anything. You tell everyone what you're going to do, they praise you, you feel motivated, and then the excitement fades. Instead, keep your head down, do the work, have the boring days, have the difficult days, have the days when you don't feel motivated. Keep going. Then one day, people will notice. They'll ask, when did you become so disciplined? You won't need a long answer, you'll know. It happened on the days nobody was watching. That's where real transformation happens. Not in announcements, in repetition, not in promises, in consistency, not in explanations, in action. And that's why your actions need to become louder than your words. If you say you want a better life, change your habits. If you say you want confidence, keep promises to yourself. If you say you want peace, stop entertaining unnecessary drama. If you say you want success, become consistent. If you say you want respect, respect yourself enough to have boundaries. If you say you want discipline, do what needs to be done even when you don't feel like doing it. Your life should eventually make your words unnecessary. And there's another reason you need to stop explaining yourself. Excessive explaining can make you doubt yourself. You make a decision, then you explain it, then someone questions it, then you start questioning it, you explain again. Another person disagrees, now you're confused. You started with certainty and ended with insecurity. Don't let everyone's opinion become the steering wheel of your life. Listen to advice, but don't surrender your judgment. Take feedback, but don't surrender your identity. Learn from criticism, but don't become dependent on approval. There's a difference between being open-minded and being easily influenced. Be open-minded, but have a mind of your own. And sometimes people will accuse you of changing. They'll say, you weren't like this before. Maybe they're right. You weren't. You're growing. And growth changes people. You don't have to remain the same person just because someone was comfortable with the old version of you. Maybe you used to say yes to everything. Now you say no. Maybe you used to explain everything. Now you're more private. Maybe you used to chase people. Now you let relationships be mutual. Maybe you used to care about everyone's opinion. Now you focus on your values. That's growth. Don't apologize for it. You don't owe anyone the old version of you. And here's where you need to be careful. Don't stop explaining yourself into an excuse for being rude. That's not the point. You should still communicate when communication is necessary. If you hurt someone, take responsibility. If you made a mistake, apologize. If someone genuinely deserves an explanation, give one. If you're in a relationship, communicate. If you're at work, be professional. The goal isn't to become silent and emotionally unavailable. The goal is to stop over-explaining yourself to people who don't need or deserve endless justification. There's a difference. Healthy communication creates understanding. Over-explaining often comes from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of conflict, fear of being misunderstood. Learn to recognize the difference. And when you notice yourself explaining too much, pause. Ask yourself, am I communicating or am I trying to convince them to approve of me? That's a powerful question. If you're communicating, continue. If you're begging for approval, stop. You don't need it. You don't need to make everyone understand your heart. The people who know you deeply will judge you by your patterns. They'll see your character. They'll see your consistency. They'll see your intentions through your actions. And the people who are determined to judge you will judge you anyway. So don't exhaust yourself trying to control the narrative. Live your truth. Do your work. Keep your character. And let time reveal the rest. Time is one of the best explanations. Someone thinks you're lazy, keep working. Someone thinks you can't succeed, keep building. Someone thinks you've changed for the worse, keep becoming better. Someone thinks you're not serious, stay consistent. Eventually your actions will answer the questions you never bothered to argue about. And that's a beautiful kind of confidence. You stop chasing validation. You stop trying to convince. You stop trying to prove. You stop trying to win every conversation. You simply live. And here's the truth. You don't have to attend every trial where someone has decided to put you on the stand. Sometimes people will misunderstand you. Let them. Sometimes people will criticize you. Learn what is useful and leave the rest. Sometimes people will talk about you. Keep moving. Sometimes people will create a version of you in their head that isn't real. You don't have to spend your life correcting it. Your real life is happening outside their opinions. Go live it. And if someone walks away because you finally set a boundary, let them walk. If someone only liked you when you were constantly available, let them go. If someone only respected you when you agreed with them, let them go. If someone needs you to abandon yourself to keep the relationship, let them go. You should never have to betray yourself just to keep someone else comfortable. Your peace matters too. Your time matters too. Your goals matter too. Your life matters too. And maybe the biggest lesson is this. Stop trying to be understood by everyone. Start becoming undeniable to yourself. Know your values, know your priorities, know your limits, know your direction. When you know those things, you don't need constant external confirmation. You can walk into a room and not need everyone to like you. You can make a decision and not need everyone to agree. You can start something and not need everyone to believe in it. You can walk away and not need everyone to understand why. That's freedom. And freedom comes with responsibility. You have to be willing to stand alone sometimes. You have to be willing to disappoint people sometimes. You have to be willing to be misunderstood sometimes. Because if your entire life depends on everyone understanding you, you'll spend your entire life explaining yourself. And you were not put on this earth to spend your life defending your existence. You are here to live, to learn, to grow, to build, to make mistakes, to improve, to become. So stop giving every opinion equal weight. Stop treating every disagreement like an emergency. Stop treating every misunderstanding like a crisis. Stop writing paragraphs to people who already made up their minds. Stop trying to convince people who don't want to understand. Let your behavior speak. Let your consistency speak. Let your discipline speak. Let your character speak. Let your results speak. And when someone asks, how did you change so much? You can simply smile because you know you stopped talking about the life you wanted and started building it. You stopped explaining every move and started making better moves. You stopped chasing approval and started trusting yourself. You stopped trying to prove your worth and started living like you already knew it. That's the transformation. So from today, speak when it matters. Explain when it's necessary. Apologize when you're wrong. Communicate when someone deserves clarity. But stop over-explaining yourself to people who only want control. You don't need to justify every boundary. You don't need permission to grow. You don't need approval to change. You don't need an audience to improve. And you don't need to announce every step. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is simply the life you build. And let them wonder, let them misunderstand, let them talk, let them doubt. You keep working, you keep improving, you keep moving, because eventually your actions will say everything your words never could. Stop explaining, start doing, stop proving, start becoming. Stop talking about the person you want to be. Become that person and let your life speak for you. There is a point where explaining yourself stops being communication and starts becoming exhaustion. You explain your choices, you explain your silence, you explain your boundaries, you explain your goals, you explain why you change, and somehow, after all that explaining, you still feel misunderstood. That's when you need to step back and realize not everyone needs an explanation. Some people genuinely want to understand you, others simply want to question you. Some want clarity, others want control. Some care about your feelings, others want to make you feel guilty. Learn the difference. Because if you spend your life explaining yourself to everyone, you'll have no energy left to actually live your life. You don't need to defend every decision. You don't need to convince everyone that your intentions are good. You don't need to prove that you're trying. Your actions will eventually reveal what your words cannot. If you're serious about changing your life, change your habits. If you're serious about becoming disciplined, show up when you don't feel like it. If you're serious about becoming successful, work when nobody is watching. If you're serious about protecting your peace, stop entertaining unnecessary drama. If you're serious about knowing your worth, stop begging people to recognize it. Your actions are your evidence, and evidence doesn't need a speech. Think about the people you truly trust. You probably don't trust them because they constantly tell you they're trustworthy. You trust them because their behavior has been consistent. They show up. They keep their promises. They tell the truth. They respect boundaries. They don't need to constantly announce their character. Their character is visible. That's how you should live. Don't tell people you're disciplined. Become disciplined. Don't tell people you're strong. Handle difficult moments with strength. Don't tell people you've changed. Let them notice. Don't tell people you're focused. Let your results prove it. This is where quiet confidence begins. You stop trying to convince. You start building. And once you start doing that, you'll notice something. You become less affected by other people's opinions. Because when you know you're doing the work, you don't need everyone to believe in you. Someone says, you won't succeed. You keep working. Someone says, you're wasting your time. You keep learning. Someone says, you're different now. You say, yes, I'm growing. And that's enough. You don't need a 20-minute explanation. You don't need to list everything you've been through. You don't need to convince them that you're serious. Your consistency will answer for you. And understand this. People will sometimes judge your present based on your past. They remember who you used to be. Maybe you were inconsistent. Maybe you made bad choices. Maybe you wasted time. Maybe you weren't disciplined. Maybe you disappointed people, and now you're trying to change. Some people won't believe you immediately. That's okay. Don't become frustrated because they haven't updated their opinion of you yet. Give them time. You don't need to argue. But I've changed. Show them. Let your behavior become consistent enough that they eventually have no choice but to notice. And if they never notice, keep going anyway. Your growth isn't dependent on their recognition. You're not changing to impress them. You're changing because you want a better life. That's an important distinction. Don't make your transformation a performance. You don't need to become successful just so someone who doubted you feels stupid. That's still letting them control your motivation. Build because you want to build. Grow because you want to grow. Become stronger because you wanted to become stronger. Let your life belong to you. And this applies to relationships too. Sometimes you keep explaining your feelings to someone who repeatedly dismisses them. You say, that hurt me. They say, you're too sensitive. And you explain, they dismiss you again. You explain more, they still don't listen. Stop. You have communicated. The next step isn't another explanation. The next step is a decision. Maybe you create distance. Maybe you change the relationship. Maybe you stop sharing certain things. Maybe you walk away. Because communication without respect becomes a cycle. You cannot communicate someone into caring. You cannot explain someone into empathy. You cannot give someone enough reasons to respect you if they have already decided not to. At some point, your action has to speak. And your action might be silence. It might be distance. It might be leaving. It might be saying no. It might simply be refusing to participate anymore. That's not weakness. That's clarity. And here's something you should remember. You don't have to respond to every accusation. Someone says you are selfish. Ask yourself, am the first? If the answer is no, keep moving. Someone says you're arrogant. Ask yourself, is there truth in this? If there is, learn. If there isn't, release it. You don't have to defend yourself against every label people put on you. Some labels are not worth removing. Let people think what they want. You know your character. The people who truly know you will see it. And time has a way of revealing the truth. You don't have to rush that process. Let time work. Let consistency work. Let your actions work. That's why you need patience. You may not see immediate results. You may change your habits today and nobody notices. You may start working harder and nobody compliments you. You may become more disciplined and nobody celebrates it. Keep going, because the most important changes often happen without applause. Nobody applauds you for waking up early. Nobody applauds you for keeping your promises to yourself. Nobody applauds you for controlling your temper. Nobody applauds you for walking away from unnecessary drama. Nobody applauds you for choosing discipline over comfort. But those quiet decisions build your future. That's where real strength is created. Not in what you tell people, in what you do when nobody is watching. And that's why you should become comfortable with being unseen. You don't need constant recognition. You don't need everyone to know what you're working on. You don't need to post every achievement. You don't need to announce every goal. You don't need to show everyone your progress. Sometimes, private progress is the most peaceful progress. Work quietly, improve quietly, learn quietly, save quietly, build quietly. And one day, people will notice the difference. But by then, you won't need their approval anymore because you'll have something much more valuable. Proof from yourself. You prove to yourself that you could keep going. You prove that you could be disciplined. You prove that you could change. You prove that you could survive difficult seasons. You prove that you could walk away. You prove that you could choose yourself. That's confidence, not arrogance, confidence. And confidence doesn't need to be loud. A confident person can say, I don't know. I was wrong. I need time. No, I changed my mind. I'm interested. I can't do that. Those simple sentences are powerful because they don't require a paragraph afterward. You don't need to feel guilty every time you say no. You don't need to make your no sound like a yes. You don't need to apologize for having limits. Say it respectfully, then stand by it. Because every time you make a decision and immediately seek approval for it, you're teaching yourself that your judgment isn't enough. Stop doing that. You can ask for advice. You can listen to people you trust, but the final responsibility for your life belongs to you. You have to make decisions. And sometimes those decisions will be unpopular. That's okay. Not every good decision is popular. Sometimes the best thing you can do is choose what is right for your future instead of what is comfortable for your present. And people may not understand. Let them. You don't have to drag everyone into your vision. Some people won't understand the life you're building because they're not living it. That's fine. Keep building. And here's another powerful lesson. Don't announce your boundaries repeatedly. If you've already said, I don't like being spoken to that way, and they do it again, you don't need another speech. You've communicated. Now act. End the conversation. Walk away. Reduce contact. Whatever is appropriate. A boundary without action becomes a request. And if you want your boundaries respected, you have to respect them yourself. Don't tell someone If you do that again, I'm leaving. Then stay every single time. Don't make threats you won't keep. Instead, set boundaries you are prepared to enforce. Quietly, consistently. That's how people learn that your words mean something. And sometimes the hardest thing is accepting that someone may never understand why you left. They may tell people a different story. They may blame you. They may say you changed. They may say you became cold. They may say you think you're better than them. You can spend months defending yourself, or you can move forward. Ask yourself, do I really need everyone to know the truth? No, the people who matter will eventually see it. And the people who don't matter enough to justify your peace. That's freedom. You don't have to control the story people tell about you. You control the story you're creating with your life. Let your actions speak. Let your consistency speak. Let your character speak. Let your results speak. And if someone still chooses not to believe you, that's their choice. You don't have to carry it. And let's talk about failure, because sometimes you over-explain yourself because you're afraid people will judge you for failing. You want them to know why you failed. You want them to understand that you tried. You want them to know it wasn't your fault. But sometimes you don't need to explain failure. Learn from it. Adjust. Try again. Your next attempt is the explanation. You don't need to tell everyone why the last plan didn't work. Build a better plan. You don't need to explain why you lost. Work to win again. You don't need to defend every mistake. Take responsibility where it's yours. Then improve. That's how mature people operate. They don't spend their entire lives protecting their image. They focus on becoming better. And you should too, because your image isn't your life. Your character is. Your habits are. Your decisions are. Your relationships are. Your health is. Your future is. Stop spending so much energy trying to look good to people who aren't living your life. Build a life that feels good to live. And another thing, stop explaining your happiness. If you're happy with a simple life, that's enough. If you're happy spending time alone, that's enough. If you're happy with fewer friends, that's enough. If you're happy focusing on yourself, that's enough. You don't need to prove that your choices are valid. You are allowed to live differently. Some people won't understand your peace because they're addicted to chaos. Some people won't understand your silence because they're used to noise. Some people won't understand your boundaries because they benefited from you having none. Don't let their confusion become your guilt. Keep going. And if someone asks, why are you so quiet now? Maybe the answer is simple. Because I have less to prove. That's a powerful place to reach. Less proving, less chasing, less explaining, less defending, more living, more working, more learning, more growing, more peace. That's the goal. And remember, your actions don't need to be loud to be powerful. The person who works quietly for years can become stronger than the person who talks about success every day. The person who quietly studies can become more knowledgeable than the person who constantly says they're learning. The person who consistently saves money can become more financially secure than the person who constantly talks about wealth. The person who controls their emotions can become stronger than the person who constantly talks about strength. The person who keeps promises to themselves can become more confident than the person who repeats motivational quotes every morning. Don't just talk about the life you want, build it. Don't just talk about discipline, practice it. Don't just talk about confidence, develop it. Don't just talk about peace, protect it. Don't just talk about self-respect, live it. And when people ask what changed, you won't need a long explanation. You'll simply know, I changed my actions. That's where everything begins. So from this day forward, stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Stop arguing with people who only want to challenge your boundaries. Stop defending every choice. Stop seeking approval for every decision. Stop announcing every goal. Stop proving yourself. Stop giving people unlimited access to your thoughts. Speak when necessary. Be honest when necessary. Communicate when necessary, but then let your actions do the rest. Let your discipline speak. Let your consistency speak. Let your patience speak. Let your character speak. Let your growth speak. Let your results speak. And most importantly, let your life speak. Because at the end of the day, people can question your words. They can misunderstand. your intentions. They can doubt your plans. They can criticize your decisions, but they cannot argue with a life that consistently proves itself. So stop trying to convince everyone. You don't need to. Build quietly, move intentionally, stay consistent, protect your peace, and keep becoming the person you know you're capable of becoming. Stop explaining, start doing, stop proving, start becoming, and let your actions speak so loudly that your explanations are no longer necessary.